This Sunday, the Trackmania Grand League finished the group stage. One of the guys who did the best in the last winter edition was the guy who is joining me. Sadly for him, it was not the same story this time around. Riolu, you ended up in the bottom this time instead of in the top half. Tell us now that you had some days to think about it, the overall season. How are you? How is everything? And then I guess the most important thing to say is welcome to the show, right?
Exactly. Yo, good to be back for another time here.
Another time,
you.
yeah.
Another time. It's nice to be here again. And yeah, Trackmania Grand League. It's a roller coaster of events this season. You mentioned the previous season. I already talked about it, I think, last time we were in the interview, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Obviously, last season can't be used as a benchmark, really, because I've just not been able to practice or anything, so it doesn't really count in my view. But for this season, I was very prepared. I was really trying hard. I was trying my best to compete again and to maybe repeat the positive story I've been writing in the TM2 Stadium season in early 2020. But I sadly wasn't able to because a lot of things went wrong for me, sadly. So at the end, the group stage is now over. You said it, and it's definitely leaving a bitter aftertaste after the 6 steps. You know, it's been 6 weeks of constant grinding. I've been practicing pretty much day in, day out. Like every day I've been trying to practice at least a little bit, you know, some days a bit less, some days a bit more. But I've always been trying to like get to the top of my game for every step. Every Sunday I was ready, feeling confident. Pace was good. PBs were solid. And then it always went downhill somehow, you know, sometimes a bit harder, sometimes a bit less hard, but it always went downhill. And just enough for me to lose everything that I fought for in the week. And, you know, that's mentally a really hard thing. So now with a few days passed after the last step, I've recovered a little bit. You know, I've been able to talk about it and to think about it and just let it kind of pass everything a little bit. But, you know, every time you think about it, it just makes you mad that it happened. It's just unfortunate. And I do believe that I could have been much further in the leaderboard, much higher. And I think the stats that we see, they showed that. There's the spreadsheets with all the different point calculations, with point loss percentage, with this, with that. And in all of these stats, I'm doing much better. So at the end of the day, I just got victim from this point system, unfortunately. Basically the opposite to what I did in the TM2 season, where I always saved myself somehow to keep my points. You know, not the fastest driver at any point, but always consistent enough to keep my points. And now it's been kind of the opposite. You know, I've been able to fight for some top positions, especially in the later steps, and then it still went down the toilet. So it's overall a very frustrating experience, I have to admit. But now, you know, I gotta accept the whole fact and just take the positives out of it as well, which I've been trying to do, and keep at least a little bit of positive energy for the events that are coming.
Yeah, because before the season started, we got the happy news that you actually re-signed your contract with Nordavind, that is essentially the biggest org around in Trackmania. That must be some sort of motivational boost going into the season then. But what sort of expectations did you have before the season? Because you mentioned it that the last season of Trackmania Grand League was not the success story you wanted. So what sort of goals did you have? What sort of thoughts did you have before the season even started?
Yeah, so I definitely had the mindset to just try my best, you know, because in the previous season, I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to show what I could. Therefore, the result was also not as expected. So my personal ambitions in whatever competition I play is that I just play good for myself, regardless of the result. So if I play good for myself, if I'm happy with my performance and it's simply not enough to beat other players, so be it. You know, I did what I could. Can't be too sad about it because others just played better than you. So that's fine in my books. But if you play bad and then you also get bad results, then it's like double the slap in the face. Then it hurts 2 times. And in this season, very often I've actually been quite happy with my driving. But then at the end, the result wasn't as expected. So the whole feeling was a lot more positive. But seeing the minus 30, minus 40 every Sunday, it just makes you sad, and it's something that can easily kill your motivation. I tried to not let that get to my head too much, but some days you've been sitting here, it's just like, aye, what am I doing? Why is this happening? Why am I constantly losing my points? Why am I making these mistakes and stuff like that? So yeah, I think overall, it's a season where I could also learn a lot, which is good, so I can improve for the next season. But the stressful thing is really hard to handle, really hard to handle. And it's been, yeah, like you mentioned, the fall 2020 win. It's been pretty similar with the grind. I've been grinding a lot, especially in the last days, to get the result I want. And I've been doing that for, let's say, step 6, because in step 6, I knew if I play a good step, I can still make it into the playoffs, right? Because I needed 50 points, and the other players in front, they could also gain a few points, and I could still possibly make it. Mathematically, it wasn't out of the picture. So that was a good motivation for me to keep grinding. It's not over. It's not over. Every step I told myself it's not over. And it was really close at the end, really close. And then Papu made it. Papu actually was in the same situation like me, and he made it. So really happy for him. But I didn't, so that sucks, because I had it in my hands, and then I let it slip through, and it's kind of unfortunate.
But do you think that once you maybe start a season in a way that you don't want, it's just sort of a ball that keeps rolling? We saw it maybe in the same way with Orel last season. He started off losing points, then it was just a continued trend. So, and this season he started off well, and it was not the same Orel. So he's just, is it something that is in the back of your head? Let's say if you start off step 1, step 2 bad, you're like, okay, now I need to perform, and then that essentially pressure on yourself is gonna affect your performance, so you just continue to maybe do mistakes.
Yeah, that's an important thing, actually. It's the momentum that you can definitely carry through an entire competition, and also through a match. I noticed that for myself, to go down to the match level. When I have a good start in the race, let's say we play map 1, map 2, and I also play good in these maps, then it's pretty likely for me that I keep this high motivation and the high speed rolling through the rest of the map and through the rest of the step. So it's really a big momentum. It gives you confidence, you see good results, you play good, you see good results, everything's positive, you keep going, and you don't really worry about the what if. The what if, for example, if you crash, or what happens if you crash? What happens if you mess up the identity? What if someone passes you and you drop to 9th place or something? These are all things that can really get to your head. And when it happens repetitively, then it gets stuck in your head. And then it can really impact your overall performance. So the thing for me, if I have a good lap 1, let's say, good lap 1, then it is easier for me to stay focused because it's less pressure. Because imagine you crash in lap 1. In the second corner, let's say you drop to 16th right from the get-go, and you need to catch up. For the entire race, your task is to go fast, hope for other players to crash, and hope that you don't crash. So these are so many factors that come into play, and it makes it so much harder to compete. And you can easily crack under that. While for the opposite, if you start first or second, third, if you have a good start, then even if you make a little mistake, you don't lose everything. You don't lose your chances of possibly scoring well. And that takes a big burden off your shoulders. And it's the same for the step, for overall step, for the entire competition. If you play good in step 1, you get points. Then I can afford having a bad step, or 2 bad steps even, and I won't lose everything. I won't lose my chances of making it into the playoffs. And I think that could be the case for players like Orel, who just continuously scored. They always were somewhere safe, and that gives them the thought, the positive thought of, even if something goes wrong, I'm fine. But if you constantly lose your points, if every step ends with 5 points for you, then the less steps you have, the more you need to perform. There's extra pressure every Sunday. And that is something not everyone can handle. Players can easily crack under that. And I'm not sure if that happened to me, really, because I didn't really have these thoughts. of course, you think about it and you're like, okay, now you gotta start make something happen. Sometimes, start to actually get some points home, dude. That's the thought you have. But I try to not let that get to my head too much because, as I said, it can easily get to you to a mental level and it ruins your performance. So I think what was the case for me personally is a different thing. It's not that.
Something that after step 1 and once Pack lost all of his points even after placing top 2 on the 5 first maps and then essentially placing 10th on map 6, I put out a poll once again to ask people if they like or dislike this point system, and people of course said they dislike it, but then someone commented that this is something everybody is competing the same on. Just do like riolu, just play safe, collect your points. Do you think that maybe the point loss system is somewhat in your favor, or did we see that this season that maybe you also are affected by this point loss system? Because if you just look at the points collected, you are number 8 from what I remember.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say because I think the point system can go in everyone's favor. It's fair play for everyone. Everyone plays under the same rules, under the same circumstances. So generally spoken, everyone has the same chance. And for everyone, the point system can be good. And for everyone, the point system can be bad. And I think for me, I've had a good season, the TM2 season. I've had a great season where I played exactly how I had to. And every season, every step, I think, except step 5 or something, I gained 20 plus points. So it's the perfect proof that you can play good and then you can also play bad and it goes exactly against your favor, like for me now in this season. So I don't know, like that's the thing about the point system. It's fair, but is it exactly, fair for the performance overall?
Yeah.
That's the question we've all been asking ourselves. And I'm not surprised when especially frustrated spectators, they see the poll from you and they just insta-click no. I'm not surprised. Because I would have done the same if I were a spectator and I'm cheering for, I don't know, Papu, and every season, every step he loses his points. Obviously, I would click no because it's not reflecting the overall performance in a way that it should, in my opinion. And the different point system, almost anything or almost any other point system that was suggested by other players or by other viewers, they try to not have this extreme thing into it. Because what we have until now, obviously the point system is going to change, but the point system that we've had up until this date was very, very extreme. A very extreme example. And other systems were trying to find the best player, but without this extreme aspect to it. And that's a lot easier on your head as a player, because I went through both the positive, the very positive, and the very negative. And now I think I can safely say that this point system overall can go either way. And there's not much you can really do about it. Sometimes it's even out of your hands. Sometimes, you just sit there, you're the passenger, and you're like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye points or hello points.
Yeah, exactly. But now that later, at the late part of the season, we, as the public at least, know that now the point system will be gone, or the point loss system of the point system will be gone. Did you hear about it before we heard about it? Is there any sort of internal talk that before the season, Ubisoft and Deo said to the players, okay, this is the last season, you have to play with this? Was it something that the players put up as a suggestion after, let's say, step 2? What did you guys know before us knowing, if anything?
Yeah, so I think they talked about it in the public announcement, the blog post they released. They said that this whole decision of changing the point system was actually in coexistence with players and with orgs and everything. So we knew about it. We knew about the new point system. We discussed it. And they were specifically asking everyone in person whether they're fine with it or not. So every player and the orgs as well, they had to give their input about the new point system. tell them if they like it, if they prefer it, if they should keep going with the old one maybe, and if yes, why. So we definitely had to make a statement and tell Nadeo, is it good, is it bad, and why? So we did that, and we have discussed it internally, so we knew about it not too long before they released it publicly, the announcement, but we knew about it, and we talked about it internally, and yeah, overall, it was obviously a very positive reaction from everyone involved. Because, for example, I spoke to Nordavind as well, and they were happy to see change finally. Because the outrage on public media, it was insane this season. Every season it got worse, and I think it came to a peak in this season now, where everything you saw every Sunday was point system, point system, point system, point system, or every stream you join from a TMGL player. Let's say you watch Masa, TMGL point system is in the chat. You watch Spam, TMGL point system. You come to my stream, TMGL point system. So the frustration was insane. Like on a scale from 1 to 10, it was 15, the frustration. It's insane. Like people were only talking about that. And there's this stupid saying, any publicity is good publicity, or any publicity is publicity at the end of the day, you know? And in this case, it was very negative, but people talked about it. People brought the word TMGL or Trackmania Grand League. They talked about it. They brought it to other people as well. So there has been a lot of talks about it. And I think Trackmania Grand League has gained kind of a weird reputation because all people did was talk about the point system and how bad it is. They didn't talk much about the races. How often do you see people talk about, oh my god, Pack drove so good in this lap, like look at that fastest lap time, or look at that race? Barely anyone talks about that. The only thing people talk about is, oh my god, this guy lost minus 5,000 points again this step. Oh my god, you know, these are the things that people talk about. Yep. So the people from Nordavind I talked about, they're of course very engaged with Trackmania. And they were very happy to see the change because it finally gives a different emphasis on the Grand League, hopefully. So that people don't talk about the minus points all the time, but they talk about the actual racing. Or they talk about something else. You know, I'm not saying the point system is going to be flat out boring, because I think it's very interesting. But I think the emphasis will be less on talking about this minus shit, and they finally start talking about the actual races and about other things. They're generally very positive, and we're all hyped, and I'm hyped as well. So let's see what is going to come.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about that. After the step, we talk about who loses points. I mean, the most popular tweets I have regarding Trackmania Grand League is, of course, the one Pack lost all the points on step 1, and then it's now the sort of overview of who lost the most points, how would the leaderboard look without point loss. It's sort of like that's what is essentially Trackmania Grand League, and I guess that's not what we want, not what the players want, but finally, now we move away from it. I'm curious to see what we're gonna end up with. But before this season is over, it's not like you are done in Trackmania Grand League. You have like a lot of things to do left. You have the final chance, and then you have this relegation match head to head. First of all, the final chance, how serious do you take it? Do you see yourself having a chance against the other bottom 8 players to finally maybe claim a spot to then come into the final 9?
So, yeah, you said it. There's still a lot of work for me to do. The season is long from being over. Even though I would like it to be over already, I'm very, I'm not saying I'm fed up, but I'm very, done with the whole thing. I just want to take a break, because the 6 weeks, let me tell you something, they were taxing. Very, very taxing on everything. It had so much impact on my days, on my mood even, because every Sunday I was sad in the evening. Every Sunday, you're sitting there, you contemplate your life. And that's, a very psychological thing, and it's not the best one, to say the least. We're now in the lucky position where all the upcoming matches in the Grand League, they're not the step format. So now it's actually a different format, which is much more about skill. You have the 1v1s, you have the final format, which is all about speed, all about consistency. So it definitely puts much more emphasis on the actual racing aspect, unlike the step format, which puts emphasis on just 8th, 9th, 10th and the point loss and everything. So I think the races will be much more interesting to watch. And I personally will take it very seriously because I see it as a proving ground to, show people that I have the pace and that I deserve better than 13th in the group stage. So I will definitely try very hard. Not only because I obviously want to stay in the league, it's part of my income, it's part of why I can be a full-time content creator and Trackmania player. So it's very, very important for me, and I'll do nothing but practice, and stay warm on the maps. Because I really want it, and I know I can do it. I think I've shown that throughout the group stage, that I can beat the names of everyone in the bottom 9, and even players of the top 8. So I definitely want to take it serious, show what I can do, and in the final chance, of course, I will have a disadvantage going into it as 13th only in seeding. That is going to be quite hard for me to catch up the disadvantage that I get from it. We see, of course, people like Spam, Massa, Kappa, Tween, they're in front of me, so they're going to have more chances at, making it through. But I won't say they're unbeatable. The map pack is actually very good for me. The maps they picked out, which also was partly a player decision, so we also had a saying in the maps, which is great. But the maps do suit me very well personally, which is awesome, and that motivates me as well. Because the worst thing is when you're forced to play maps you don't like or maps that you don't comfortable with. It's getting a chore. It's terrible. So I like the maps. I'm looking forward to practicing them because they're comfortable for me. I like them and they're fun. Even after playing them for 15 hours, I think they're still fun. So I'm looking forward. Final chance, of course, going to be hard, but I'll see where it gets me. It's not too important for me to get to the playoffs. But the most important thing is that I stay in the league. So I will focus even more on head-to-head, focus on my 1v1 against Link, and just try to survive. Of course, it sucks that there's now this extreme decision of one stays and one is out 100%. Yep. I think that is an extremely questionable decision, but you gotta take it for now and roll with it, and I'll do that and see where it gets me.
Yeah, because it's important to explain to the people who listen who doesn't know what we are talking about. Is the final chance, you have a chance of actually getting into then the final where the winner of Trackmania Grand League will be crowned. And if you then qualify to the final 9, and if you even end up winning it, you still have to play the head-to-head, and you can still end up going out of. So it's not like the final chance is sort of if you perform well there, you're not out of the question of actually being relegated. You still have the chance of going out of the Trackmania Grand League. So some sort of weird decision there that you can have the winner of Trackmania Grand League being in Open Grand League next season. I'm curious to see if that's a scenario that they are gonna push so hard of actually getting it out, but it's in the rules, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so as a player, all you do is just go with it.
Yeah.
And luckily for next season, the whole thing is going to change a little bit. They have announced that there's going to be this mix between TMGL and OGL again, which you don't have for this season, which I think is very important. So that's a very good change. I'm not sure why they changed it for this season in first place, because I think you need to have the direct comparison against TMGL and OGL. At the moment, if you ask me, and many people ask me in the stream as well, they ask me, hey, riolu, do you see anyone from OGL at the moment in the Grand League? And in the last season, it was pretty easy to say, yeah, Link, Mada, Grenady even, you had a lot of contenders. But the level in this season is noticeably lower. And for me, it's actually hard to say if anyone from the OGL right now is going to have an easy time surviving in the Grand League. And I don't mean it like in a bad way, but looking at general consistency in lap times, there's 1, 2, 3 people who can maybe compete, but they need to like try very, very hard. We see, for example, Worker, who gets extremely unlucky. Like Worker is, I don't know how he's still able to play at this point, because poor guy has been, it's worse than what I had, and worse than what Papu had in terms of point loss. Worker is definitely a contender, I think, to make it into the Grand League. Question is if he can handle it, because TMGL is a different story. I think people heavily underestimate that, because TMGL, not only do you have the pressure of facing everyone who is at the top of Trackmania for years. But you also have pressure from orgs because you have an org in the best case, tween, or and you have the pressure from a huge audience as well, and you have the pressure probably for your own self as well that you are in the best league and you want to play good. So it's a really really difficult environment to compete in, especially because you also have like the org thing that I mentioned. Since you can drop out again, like within months, out of your org, that is rough, you know, that is very rough. So the pressure is insane. And I kind of hope that they're going to ease that a little bit for players, because it's not necessarily the greatest thing as a player and also for the orgs to be in an org for 3 months, for 1 season, and then you happen to drop out. For whatever reason, maybe you get unlucky, maybe, I don't know, you have something else in life and you can't really perform. There are so many reasons why, you know, maybe you don't compete and then everything is going down the toilet. Everything that you worked for. You work hard for 1 OGL season, for 1 TMGL season, and then it's over again and you start at the bottom. So this extreme hopping between the 2 leagues, it's a hard thing to solve, I think, with Trackmania still not being extremely competitive and not having that many players at the top. It's a hard thing to balance, but
Yeah, I understand what they mean or try to do with sort of having fresh blood coming in every season, but it's just somewhat feels weird that you don't have this. I mean, the Combine was a weird story in itself, but now that you have it completely separate, that it's just Trackmania Grand League versus Trackmania Grand League and Open Grand League versus Open Grand League, it should be
yeah.
somewhat that you have at least. The goal is to have the 16 best players in the world, and if the Open Grand League players isn't able to beat the Trackmania Grand League players, then good luck, try again next season. And
Yes.
I get what you mean by this security for orgs as well. Let's say that Nordavind, for example, is dedicated in Trackmania, but they are dedicated with you in Trackmania. You drop out, and then they have, let's say, Worker and Grenadier coming up. Are they going to be like, okay, coin flip, who am I going to take? Or am I going to leave Trackmania? So it's sort of, I guess, on bigger picture, you have to think about what do you lose if you lose a player, and do you want like Link, who is now in Grizzy, for dropping in, dropping out, dropping in again potentially?
Exactly.
For orgs, I guess it's also a weird look for them. Like, okay, I signed with this player, now I have to be forced to get this guy. Like probably Edelweiss was with Mura.
Yeah, I think that is a big problem. That's exactly what I talked about. This constant switch is not healthy for the whole system, I think. There needs to be a bit more regularity, like a bit more. There needs to be a constant throughout the league, and also for players to not constantly worry about their income, because we have people who do it full time. And for example, myself, I don't want every season to worry about my job. Like, I don't know, it's not the best thing. It's not very healthy, and that also adds extra pressure because, of course, you play for money, you play for an org, you play for sponsors. So obviously you need pressure, but sometimes it can go to the extreme. And for the orgs, it's a different situation to handle. As you said, like, imagine I drop out. Can I stay? You know, do they still want me in Nordavind, for example? Or I don't know, let's say Link drops out, or Evon, or Scrappy. You know, if any one of us drops out, are they going to keep their org? Or are they going to be like, okay, we're completely out of the Grand League, we're taking an OGL player? What do they do? Like, every season, every half year, you ask yourself the same question, and I don't think it's the optimal way to handle it at the moment. So I really hope that as Trackmania Grand League grows bigger, and it seems like it does grow at least a tiny little bit with every season, that at some point there's going to be this constant where players don't have to worry that much about their future, their competitive career, and about being able to possibly pay their bills or not. Like, that's a rough thing.
Yep. Let's end it on somewhat of a positive note, because if you look back at 2020, and haven't talked to you, I guess, since 2020, I had these Holdal awards. I named you as Streamer of the Year because of the success you had in 2020. The numbers you brought up was by far the biggest English-speaking streamer. So if you look back at 2020 quickly and then recap what you think about the upcoming 2021, what can we expect from you outside of Trackmania Grand League, and how did you look back at 2020 when you won the Holdal Awards, the most prestigious Trackmania Awards that is?
Yeah, so I was of course very delighted to get that award. I haven't really followed all of these awards, I have to be honest, because it was a very turbulent time for me at that point. So I didn't really pay too much attention, but I of course saw that I got nominated and that you picked me as a streamer of the year. Thank you for that, of course.
Yeah, no
that's really kind, and it shows that you get acknowledged as a content creator. And I think the numbers they show that as well. 2020 has been the year for me so far where I've grown the most. And I think, of course, I have to thank the new game for that, because the new game, of course, it brought so much more attention to streams, to Trackmania content on YouTube, that basically anyone who is somewhat active has benefited from that. So not only me, but look at Virtual, look at Spam, look at Massa, look at all the English speaking, look at Scrappy, you know, all the English speaking streamers that I follow, they grew. I'm not sure how much the French scene grew. I'm very sure they grew a lot, and I think everyone deserves it, because every Trackmania streamer is very dedicated. At least the active ones, you know, those who try, I think they're very dedicated, and that's great. And it's good that they actually receive the recognition they deserve for kind of a niche game like Trackmania. We have to be honest, it's still kind of a small game, still a niche game. There's no way to deny that. But it's shown a great push. And for me personally, the push also helped me to, you know, live my life. And that's what made 2020 extremely crazy for me, because my life made a 180-degree turn pretty much. So it's been a year not only for Trackmania but generally, which has been insane in many ways. And yeah, it's great that it works out this way. And 2021, you know, it can go just the same way. Of course, we don't know what's gonna come. Nobody knows that. And what I'm personally gonna aim for, you said after Grand League, like I have a few projects that I want to work on. For example, Trackmania Marathon is something I did last year. It's been a huge success, which is one of the reasons why, you know, the channel or my brand has grown as well. So that's something I want to bring back. I think a lot of people are hyped for that already. So that's really good. I'm looking forward to that after Grand League, to finally get to do something else. Because, yeah, Grand League has been extremely rough. You know, it's been making me mad. Like, honestly, it's crazy how much impact it had on me. So I'm glad whenever it's done, and no matter the outcome. Of course, I hope for a positive outcome. I'm confident. You know, I'm not saying I'm scared or of final chance or of head to head. I'm not scared. I'm looking forward to getting it done, and I'm confident that I can do a good performance, because the season overall was good. I played sick. You know, for my standards. I got much faster throughout the step. I was finally, like, I was even able to win maps in step 6, like 2-3 maps. I was able to lead even. Yeah. So that is a very positive aspect that I really want to put extra emphasis on, because it's a nice confidence thing for the final chance, where it's more about speed actually. In final chance, you have to win. You know, you have to win the 2-lappers. And I think with the pace I've shown on some maps, I can do that. So I'm very confident with that. And I want to end the season with a good note with this performance. Stay in the league and just show a good performance, and then focus on the other projects, which are hopefully going to boost my brand, just get me on some different thoughts as well, other than Grand League and about fearing losing my points and whatnot. It's been a nightmare, man. So yeah, with Marathon, with... well, let's see, maybe Zerator Cup, if something's going to happen. You know, there's finally something else to do, and I'm really hyped for that. Because the last thing I want is that Grand League kills my whole motivation for Trackmania, because I still like the game, and it's very fun to create content, and it's been showing great numbers. It's always growing. Like, even on YouTube these days, we see Virtual crossing 140,000 subscribers or something, and even my channel has grown a little bit with that. So there's definitely a positive chart, this emoji, the chart with upwards trend. So I'm very hyped to keep going and to bring Trackmania to a wider audience with my content, because I think Trackmania definitely has the potential to entertain a lot of people, even if people maybe don't like playing it that much because they get frustrated. I see a lot of people, they come in and they're like, oh my god, how do you do this, riolu? Like, how can you play these tracks? I would quit in 5 tries. So maybe some people don't necessarily enjoy playing it, but they like watching it a lot. Sometimes I have people in my chat, they say, yo, riolu, I'm watching you for 2 years. I've never played Trackmania. I'm like, what? It's crazy. It's insane. So it's showing that Trackmania has incredible entertainment value, and I'm trying to kind of build up on that. Virtual does that in a good way. You see that his content is being watched a lot because he is appealing to the audience that likes these types of challenge videos and just this entertaining stuff. And Trackmania has a lot of potential for that. I don't think the potential has even been reached yet. You can do a lot of crazy things with Trackmania if you're creative enough. So I'm maybe going to try to, make something happen in that regard as well, to make Trackmania a bit more fun as well, not just serious competition, but also a bit of fun again. So that's going to be my goal. And hopefully, as we get into next season of Grand League, where, everything's changed, where we're going to start a clean slate, then I hope it's not going to go as badly as it did this season, because I don't want to see myself on this 13th place again. It doesn't look very good.
My goal for 2021 is for a LAN event to come back, because it's 1 year ago since we met for the first time in Lyon, so it's time to go back to a LAN event. It's time to finally play some Uno Championship and just have fun as a Trackmania community. So that's my final goals for 2021.
That sounds good.
But yeah, thanks for stepping up. If you have any final words for the people that is going to follow you, because it's by far, Nordavind is by far the most followed English cast out there, virtual, having over 4,000 viewers, and you can see Go riolu in the chat there all the time.
Yeah.
Any final words for the people that have supported you and probably will continue to support you for the final chance, the relegation that is head-to-head, and then, of course, the Trackmania Marathon and everything that comes after?
Yeah, so of course, big shout out to everyone who's been positive throughout the whole season. I know it's been a hard season to cheer for me, because it's always been going down the toilet at some point. So I think it's been quite hard to stay positive. But a lot of people did that. A lot of people always cheered for me and even wrote messages in private being like, yo, riolu, you did good. Fuck the point system, along the lines, So it's nice to see the support, and it helped as well to keep the sanity somehow. That's really good. And yeah, it's gonna get better. Let me tell you that. So shout outs to everyone. Of course, there were a few people who just went overboard. You have people like that. They're just not, worth to be talked about. But yeah, overall it's great to have a supportive community and people who stand behind you even when things go down the shit. But yeah, gonna end it on a good note here with the season and get a good result in with no point loss.
That's for sure. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Every time before the interview, it's like, let's aim for 50 minutes, and then 40 minutes later, we are here still. Where did time go? So
Whoops.
It's really a pleasure to get inside your mind, because you're truly, I don't know if you're truly one of the best to understand it, but you are truly one of the best to actually explain it and take the time to do it. So it's always a pleasure to have you on this. And
that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's been a little while now ago. I'm starting to become lazy, so I need to step up, and not like 4 months until next time you're on this channel.
Yeah, true. I checked our Discord private message history, and the last one was from like October.
Oh damn! I need to step up.
November 2020. So it's been some time, man.
Yeah, I need to.
Yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, I need to speed up. But yeah, thanks, man. Now it's on to the next interviews. So and good luck in the final chance, and good luck in the head-to-head. And I hope to see you in the next season of Trackmania Grand League.
Thank you very much.
That's it. Bye bye.